All right, welcome to the VAA Global's Masterclass on supply chain. A lot of people have been asking us if we have a full course on supply chain. Yes, we have it as a module in our operations management program, but now, based on the popular demand, we now have a full course on it that stand on its own. But before you go for the full paid course, you need to take this masterclass. It is very, very broad and it helps explain a lot of different things you need to know as a beginner to get started, such that even if you don't want to go for the paid course, this masterclass helps on its own. So this is the exact structure that you are going to be needing. It covers real examples, quick checks, and different quizzes for you. Before we start, here are the housekeeping rules you need to do right away. Block out 2 full hours without distractions. Doing this help. It gives you that focus, undistracted focus on this masterclass. Once you've done that, then we can move to the second housekeeping rule. Get a pen right away and a physical notebook. Please go ahead and do that right now before you continue. Pause the video and go and get a pen and a physical notebook. You will need them. Find a quiet space with minimal distractions. So I believe you are watching this masterclass in a less noisy area. If you are in a very noisy area, pause and watch this later till you get to a very less noisy space with minimal distractions. Silence notifications on your phone, minimize your social media apps right now to focus fully on this masterclass. And of course, get water nearby before you start so you don't distract yourself. Once you've done all of this, you are now getting ready and you can play the video and continue with this masterclass. These are the different outlines we are going to cover. Supply chains, what it is, forecasting, what it is, sourcing, inventory, logistics, and carriers. So we are going to be covering these different areas in this program. Now, the first thing is what a supply chain really is. I understand people watching this might be total beginners. And of course, we have some entry-level experience and we have some senior roles experience. But whichever role, whichever level you are, we believe that this will add value to you. So the main objective for this session is to help you understand a supply chain as a system of 4 connected flows. By the time we get there, you will learn what the 4 flow models are, right? So you will learn supply chain as a system of 4 connected flows and not just a line of companies. So what exactly is supply chain? You've been hearing supply chain recently here and there, supply chain, supply chain, supply chain. What exactly is supply chain? A supply chain, just like the name implies, chain, connection, linking, network, all right? So supply chain is a network. I like it in your note, I write it down. Is a network of organizations, people, activities, resources, and information involved in moving a product or service from raw material all the way to the final consumer. You understand? So it's the study of that network, that's that connection between the company themselves producing the product or the service to the people involved, the activities, the actions involved, the resources they are going to be needing, right? Of course, logistics, moving it as well, and till it eventually gets to the consumer that will use the product, that will need the service. That is the supply chain. Now, of course, supply chain is mostly used when we talk about manufacturing industries, but whether it is product or whether it is service, supply chain can also be implemented. So it is a network of organizations, people, activities, resources, and information involved in moving a product or a service from raw material all the way to the final consumer, final customer. Every product you own right now, we said in our housekeeping rule, you should go and get a pen and paper. That pen and paper you are using right now pass through this same supply chain before it gets to you. Somebody produced it, somebody manufactured it, somebody moved it from the warehouse, from wherever it was produced. Somebody moved it to where they started selling it in wholesale, then from the wholesale getting to retailer, then retailer getting to you. It passed through this supply chain. Anything have you eaten today? If you have eaten, then the food you ate today actually passed through this supply chain. Every product you own pass through a supply chain before it gets to you. See, most people only think about the physical movement of goods. That's what I had said already. Supply chain goes beyond physical goods production. So a supply chain professional street job is coordinating the entire four flows, not just the production, not just the logistics alone. And some believe it's just all about the inventory. No, it's not just about the inventory alone. It captures the entire four models. So now let's now look at the four flows model in supply chain. The four flow models in supply chain. Now, the major three entities you are going to see in these four flows are supplier, producer, and customer. Supplier, producer, and customer. And you can see that between the supplier and the producer, we have the fourth flow, which is the product. So you see, it's moving from the supplier, right, the same product, to the producer, the same product to the customer. And you can see the arrow movement coming from supplier going to producer, right? If the information could also go from the producer to the supplier, it goes both ways. All right. Then you can also see from the producer to the customer, this arrow pointing to the customer is telling you that this is a flow from the producer directly to the customer. All right. So this is the three entities, or these are the three entities involved in the supply chain, and this flow, it helps you, goes the information coming from the supplier goes to the producer, and it can also go both ways. So we have supplier, product, producer, product going to customer again. Then information now work between all of them. So the four flows are the product flow, the information flow, the cash flow, and the reverse flow. So you can see how it's going. Now, the three major entities we have are what? Supplier, producer, and customer. And we have this product going, the going can replace going in your notebook with flowing. It flows from where? The supplier towards the producer. So we said those are the physical goods, see, moving from the supplier to the customer. You see, so it moves first from what? Supplier to producer, and from producer to what? To customer. That's the first flow. And we call that flow what? The product flow. Please pay attention, because there are going to be quizzes you will need to answer, and there are rewards waiting for you. All right. Now, the second flow goes, which is the information flow. It involves the orders, the forecast, and updates. They move in both directions. You can see just what I have explained. They can go either ways. Which is the information flow. Then, of course, we have the cash flow, which is the payment moving back through the chain. All right. So the payment flow is basically saying, oh, it could, of course, could come from here to the producer. It could also come from the producer to the supplier. It goes, you understand? It can come from the customer can pay producers can pay suppliers. All right. So that's the cash flow. Then, of course, we have the reverse flow, which are the returns, the repairs, the recycling, moving backward as well. So you can see. So as cash is moving straight from back, consumers can anytime I say customers, consumers, they are the same. Okay. Customers can, pay producers can pay suppliers. So you can see that the arrow is going back. That's the one I use green to represent here. The green arrows going back. Then we have the disjointed red arrows going back as well, which is the reverse. They could return items back to the producer. And that's why you see in Lagos State, you see people picking finished products, dust, plastic bottles, waste product, and so on. They are taking everything back to where? Either the producer or or the supplier, either the producer or the supplier, to reprocess those things and rebuild new products out of them. All right, so that's basically the four flows model in supply chain. Now let's take a quick recap of what we've done so far. If you are asked what is supply chain right now, what will you say? A supply chain is the system, right, of or network of organizations, people, activities, resources, and information involved in moving a product or service from raw material all the way to where the final customer. All right. And why most people think it's just all about the physical logistics of goods? No, it involves the entire thing in businesses, in companies. And this is why supply chain is one of the high demand jobs in ops management. All right. So we look at this way. It could go from product, the supplier, to what? The producer, then from what? The customer. Then we could also have the information flow going where? Supplier to producer. Of course, like I said, it can go either way. Then, of course, from producer to customer, and it can also go either way. All right. So both information, both the information flow can go what in either ways. They can either go from supplier to producer, or producer to customer, or customer back to what? To producer. They go either ways. Unlike what the cash flow that moves back from, because cash means we are paying who has made it. Who has made it can also pay who is supplying, who is making it. You understand? So that's basically the four flows. Then, of course, the reverse flow that also goes backward like the cash flow. All right. Now, look at the simple supply chain network. From raw material, which is the supplier, going to the manufacturer. From the manufacturer, going to the distributor. From the distributor, going to retailer. And from retailer, going to the customer. Any business chain, any business you see, any company you see works with this. And whether it is a product or it's a service, they work with this. The raw material going to the manufacturer, going to of course, this is the supplier. Okay, supplier, the manufacturer need to get their it's just like a car company, a car producing company. We said they are the manufacturer of the car. The fact that they are the manufacturer of the car does not mean that they are the one that actually gathered or supplied themselves the materials they used. So they are going to definitely have suppliers. All right. So that's why manufacturer is not the beginning of the chain. They have supplier. So supplier to manufacturer, from manufacturer to what? Distributor, from distributor to what? The retailer, and from retailer to what? The customer, the consumers. All right. Now let's now look at supply chain and logistics. Most people think, I already said that most people think what? It's just all about movement of goods alone, right? It's just movement of goods alone, which is what? The logistics part. Now, what exactly is now the difference? People use these two words interchangeably, but they are not equal. Logistics is a part of supply chain management focused specifically on moving and storing goods. So logistics is just a sibling of supply chain. It's just a part, an arm of it. And this arm of supply chain is the one that focuses on how do we move the goods? How do we store the goods? The goods goods don't just produce themselves. It's from the supplier to the manufacturer to the distributor. You understand? But people think supply chain is just how do we have the warehouse? How do we now move it? How do we deliver to the consumers? No, that is just logistics. So it is the arm of supply chain that deals with how do we move and store the goods. That's all. So this talks about transportation, warehouse, and delivery. And of course, we have some of our students who have secured jobs as warehouse managers, operation manager, process managers, and so on. It's just the arm of supply chain. And if you go for the operation management class as well, you see supply chain as one of the modules. I think that should be our week 3. Yes, week 3 in operation management. But supply chain is a career on its own. Is a career on its own. All right, and that is why we have the course separately, supply chain program, certification program on its own. All right, now supply chain management is a bigger picture where we talk about logistics, inventory, forecasting, strategy. So everything here work together. So logistics is just one piece of the puzzle, not the whole puzzle. All right, now we are going to quickly have a recap, how we do it, of what we have done so far. So far, you know what supply chain is. All right, supply chain is a network of organizations, people, activities, resources, and information involved in moving a product or service from raw material all the way to the final customer. And you have seen the four flows model as well. All right, and you have also seen the simple supply chain network from the raw material to the manufacturer to the distributor, the retailer, and the customer. And now we have also seen the main difference between supply chain and logistics. So why this actually matters to you as a beginner in supply chain? See, everything good thing you bought this week moved from a supply chain before it reached to you. We have laid that already. You understand? We've set that foundation already. This MacBook I'm using to teach you it got me because there's supply chain. The phone you are using to watch this masterclass, whether iPhone, Android, the iPad, whatever you're watching it from, it goes through the supply chain. In fact, the app you are using to watch, maybe you are watching this on YouTube, maybe you are watching it on your website, it also passes through the supply chain. So when the shelf is empty, right, or when the delivery is late, when the price suddenly jumps, that is what supply chain decision playing out in real life. All of these things work together. It doesn't stand on its own. You can't say inventory is a unit on its own. You can't say forecasting. No, they all work together. Everybody must align their decision to say, okay, this is how the supply chain will work. And that is why they need to hire a supply chain manager who will now be in charge of controlling all the different arms. All right. Now, understanding this system is understanding how the physical world actually runs. Now, let's go to the supply chain maturity. The supply chain maturity. Not every company manages its supply chain the same way. Of course, it's not possible. Everybody has the way they do their thing. Now, maturity models describe a rough progression through which companies start with basic, disconnected processes, then they will now move from that stage to functional coordination. They will now move from that stage to full internal integration. It doesn't just happen once, boom. Your company now has full bread supply chain. It doesn't happen that way. It follows what is called maturity models, from the basic supply chain processes to the functional ones to the integrated one, then of course the extended and the most optimized model, the most optimized operational supply chain. So it starts from the basic, then functional. When you join any company as a supply chain manager, it is expected of you to follow analyze where they are right now. All right. So most companies are somewhere in the middle, which is exactly why you, as a supply chain professional, will be very, very much in high demand. Because, like I said, once you analyze where the company is right now, you always see room for you to grow that company, to always move the company up in the maturity level of supply chain. There will always be gaps to fill. You will always be in high demand. All right, so that's basically it. Now let's look at the chart. You can see companies are not at the top. It starts from basic, like I just explained, to integrated, then go to what the extended and optimized. Okay, so that's what the supply chain maturity. Supply chain maturity. Now let's look at the vertical integration. Vertical integration is when a company brings more of its own supply chain in-house. All right. When a company brings more of its own supply chain in-house, that's the owing stages is previously relied on outside partners. Now, this is deep vertical integration like this. You own your own supply chain. So instead of you bringing a different company to come and like agency or other third party to come and own it for you, you have your own internal supply chain integration. That is vertical integration. So you bring your own supply chain in-house, mean within your company. All right. So instead of buying that capability from someone else, so it's doing your own logistics instead of using a third-party carrier. Is an example of you can see of vertical integration. Now, quick check. As part of our in-house rules, although I know it's not stated here, it's not here, but I'm going to add it now. These quizzes are important for you to answer them. Although important but not compulsory. When you answer them, they help you. So which of this is not one of the 4 core supply? You answer it on your own. All right. You answer it on your own. Now, the second one is a company brings its logistics fully in-house instead of using outside partners. What is this an example of? You answer this on your own. Now let's move to the second part, which is demand forecasting for. And go for this is just the master class. When you come for the paid class, you're going to spend weeks on these different areas. All right. So what we just finished now, supply chain fundamentals, we're going to spend like 2 weeks or 1 week on it. Then this demand forecasting, you're going to spend like 1 week or 2 weeks on them. So to go deep into each of these areas, what you have learned so far. Now you know what supply chain is, you know what vertical integration is, you know the maturity levels and other things we've discussed. All right. Then, of course, demand forecasting fundamentals as well. Now, excuse me, the learning objective here is for you starting point for the entire supply chain. That is our goal for this particular module. To understand why forecasting is the starting point for the entire supply chain. Now, pay attention here. Please, I believe you have pen and paper. Before a company can plan production, staffing, or purchasing, it needs some idea of what it is expected to sell. You can't just start a company now and start production, start hiring people, get HR, start purchasing this and that for failure. You need some idea of what to sell. Every other supply chain decisions flows from this, which is the forecasting. A bad forecast creates a ripple of bad decisions, failure through the entire supply chain. There's a part in the holy book, the scripture, that says if the foundation is not strong, if the foundation is destroyed, what would righteous do? Right now, this is the same idea here. When you don't forecast properly, efficiently, when companies don't hire supply chain like our graduates at VA Global, they are setting themselves up for bad decisions because a poorly trained supply chain manager will not understand the details. So there's not going to be a ripple effect across all the entire supply chain. Yes, even the one that you think will not affect it, it's going to affect it. So forecasting is the first thing. Before you start planning your production, oh, let's do this, let's get recruiter, let's work with agencies. In fact, marketing, before you even go into marketing, you must focus on what you expect to sell. Now, 3 principles worth remembering. Forecasts are always wrong to some degree. Okay? Forecasts are always wrong to some degree. Aggregated forecasts are more accurate than detailed ones. Okay? What? Aggregated forecasts are more accurate than detailed ones. And lastly, accuracy decreases the further out you look. Accuracy decreases the further out you look. I'm going to repeat the 3 principles. Forecasts are always wrong to some degree. Aggregated forecasts are more accurate than detailed ones. And accuracy decreases the further out you look. Now let's look at how you can do your forecasting. Let's look at how you can do your forecasting. I'm going to start with the demand patterns for forecasting. Okay. Now, demand really moves in a straight line. Even trend is straight, although, but it cannot be straight line. So trend is a long time upward or downward direction. You can see. Look at what I mean. Look at the chart. So it's upward or downward. It's not straight line. All right. Then we have the second demand pattern called seasonality. See, demand pattern is just, how do you know something is in high demand? That's just it. How do you know something is in high demand? It can be trend. Okay, like recently now on Twitter, people are talking about supply chain. That's a trend. So it just shoot up. So the trend just shoot up. Give it 1 month, 2 months. Those who have high energy right now to go for supply chain, it's just going to reduce. So the same way it goes up, it's going to come down. It won't go straight line. Then we have the seasonality. It changes with intervals. It changes with seasons, just like the name implies. It repeats at fixed intervals. You can see the shape. This is the shape. That's seasonality. Then we have the cyclical. Cyclical patterns are usually longer, less predictable waves, often tied to the economy, to the broader economy. So that's why you say, market is changing. So this is not in demand again because of market demand. That's cyclical. They are usually longer but less predictable waves, and they are often tied to the broader economy. Then we have what is called the random variation. So it is the noise left over that no model fully explains. This is like the disruption. It is the unexplained noise, the random variation. It is the noise left over. No model can fully explain this one. It is random. A good forecaster learns to separate these 4 demand patterns apart instead of reacting to every wiggle in the data as if it means something. And that is why of course, it's good to be proactive as a supply chain manager. Be proactive, know what is going on in your market, know where to change, know where to adjust, but never let this demand pattern control you, except you have the actual data to back up your decision. Things are not always the way they look. And you remember this. Remember one of the principles I told you. Accuracy decreases the further out you look. So of course, you have to always make sure that whatever decision you want to make is data backed. And that is why there's supply chain analysts as well, who help with data analysis to make informed decisions as what a supply chain manager. So real demand data is usually a mix of all the 4 demand patterns. Separating them out is what makes a forecast useful, rather than just reacting to every wiggle as if it means something. Now let's look at our X and Ops. Okay, that's the sales and operations planning. Your sales and operation planning is the recurring monthly process that turns a forecast into an actual company-wide plan. Okay, it is what the recurring monthly process that turns a forecast into an actual company-wide plan. It is not a single meeting, it's a circle. You review demand, review what supply can realistically deliver, you reconcile the gap between the demand and what supply can deliver. Then of course you get decision makers to sign up on your plan and you notch it. So your S and Ops, your sales and ops operation planning, that's ops planning, okay, is the recurring monthly process that turns the forecast you have done here. All right. This sales and ops planning help turn that forecast into an actual plan companies can use. What does it involve? It's circled from demand review, okay, to what? To supply review. Okay, so you can see I put the cyclic diagram here. from demand review towards the supply review to reconciliation towards executive review. Then of course it keeps going. It keeps going. It's not a one-time thing. Okay, it's a recurring monthly activity. It's a recurring monthly loop. Doesn't stop. It doesn't. You don't say, we have done our this thing for this year. That's all. All right. So from what I want you to close your notes now. Close this tab and tell us what the sales and up plan is all about. Can you draw the circle by yourself now? Did you get it? That's good. So from demand review to supply review to reconciliation towards executive review back towards demand review. And of course, that will now lead us into the bullwhip effect. The bullwhip effect that talks about the different demands and orders. Okay, so now look at the bullwhip effect. The first bullwhip effect you are seeing here is what? The customer demand. Then the retail's order, you can see the distributor orders and the manufacturer orders. Now let's explain what each of these actually means. What is the bullwhip effect? The bullwhip effect is small fluctuations in real customer demand. So a slight pump in retail sales can cause widely oversized orders. All right. Now, each line on this chart represents one link in the same chain. So each line you are seeing in the bullwhip effect represents what? It represents one link in the same chain. Now let's go into each of the different bullwhip effects that we have. The first is the customer demand. The customer demand. This is talking about what people actually buy in your store. And look at 9. It usually stays relatively flat, almost straight, but not straight, of course. It always stays relatively flat. That's what the customer demand. So it talks about the real end customer demand that people buy from week to week. That is what the customer demand effects. Then we have the retail orders. This is what the retailer orders from the distributor to restock. We have the customer as the last part. Let's go back. Let's go back so that you can know what we're talking about here. So look at a supply chain network. Supplier to manufacturer to distributor to retailer and to what? To customer. Now look at it this way now. This bullwhip effect is now telling us that demand changes per time in economics, right? But now this is not really economics thing. We're looking at it in the angle of a supply chain manager now. There could be fluctuations every time. Something could happen. Manufacturer orders could increase or reduce. Customer orders could reduce or reduce. So how does that now affect your supply chain? That's what you're looking at. So it is called the bullwhip effect. Small fluctuations in real customer demand get amplified as they move upstream. A slight bump in retail sales can cause widely oversized orders further up the chain, of course. All right. Then each line on the chart represents one link in the same chain, reacting to the link just below it, just like I've already explained. Okay. Now, the customer demand, that's what people actually buy in the store. Then retail orders, that is what the retailer orders from the distributor to restock. All right. What they order to restock. Then we have the distributor orders. What the distributor orders from the manufacturer. So the distributor is reacting to the retailer's order. So why this retailer order is reacting to what? The customer demand. This distributor order is reacting to what? Let's look at it here. This retailer order is reacting to what? Customer demand. Why distributor order is reacting to what? The one here, retailer orders, and so on. Okay. So that's why I put it here and said retailers overreact slightly to any dip or spike in customer demand. That happens everywhere in the market. You understand? Ordering a bit extra just in case or cutting back a bit more needed. So this line already swings wider than customer demand did. You can see. So that's basically what this chart represents here. Then the retail orders. What the retailer orders from the distributor to restock. Retailers overreact slightly to any dip or spike in customer demand, ordering a bit extra just in case, or cut back a bit more needed. Then distributor orders. What the distributor orders from the manufacturer, you can see now that chain, that's that network. The distributor is reacting to these retailer orders, not to customer demand, because to distributor, these are their own customers. To distributor, these are their own customer. To retailer, this is their customer. Of course, this is the final customer in the entire chain. To look at it in proportional, we see that this customer demand is directly proportional to these retail orders. Of course, retail orders is directly proportional to this customer demand. Then, of course, this is the same thing to this, directly proportional to this, because increase or decrease in this can affect this as well, distributor orders. Then, of course, manufacturer orders as well, depends on what distributor orders. That is called the what? The bullwhip effect. The bullwhip effect. Now, why does the bullwhip effect happen? Answer it and note it down. There's a place you will drop your answers. Okay, note it down for now. Why does the bullwhip effect happen? Then the fourth one, umbrella sales spike every year during the rainy season. What kind of demand is this? This is very, very simple. What's the answer? Is it trend? Is it seasonality? Is it random variation? Is it cyclical? Note your answer. Note your answer. Okay. Now let's go to the third module, sourcing and procurement basics. So you see, the same way we've explained each of the different modules we've done so far, that's what we are going to be doing for you in class when you come for the paid class. Only that we are going to be going deep, teaching you everything like a total beginner that you are. Okay, now let's look at sourcing and procurement basics. In this module, we want to make sure that you understand how companies decide who to buy from and the basic process once that decision of who to buy from has been made. We want to understand how companies decide who to buy from in the supply chain, of course, that's procurement and sourcing, and the basic process once that decision is made. Now, let's go on. Are you ready? If you are tired, pause the video here, stretch your body, take water, all right, and make sure you are back to a less distractive environment to continue this lesson. And by now, your lesson notes, your paper and pen will be getting feed, right? Your paper will be getting feed. You should have at least have jottings of up to 3 pages already if you are jotting very well so far. So let's move on. One of the first strategic decisions a company faces is, how do we get what we want to buy, and from where can we get this thing? Do we make it ourselves, or do we buy it from a supplier? Even Apple doesn't manufacture its own screens. Maybe they now do that, we don't know. All right. Most companies decide, do we supply ourselves? Do we do this thing from the raw material we have, or do we order and source for this from a supplier? Now, this is the make versus buy chart I made for us. So if you ask this question, you are trying to decide what to make and what to buy. Ask, is it core to our competitive strategy? If yes, make it in-house. If no, then you can now ask, do we have the cost, or do we have the capacity to buy? If no, buy. If yes, make in-house. So now, 2 different branches to start with. If you are saying it is core to our competitive advantage, just straight yes, make it in-house. If you are saying it is not core to our competitive strategy, that's a no. You now have to ask yourself, do we have the cost or the capacity advantage for it? If yes, it go back to make in-house. If no, then we can now say, let's buy from supplier. Draw this in your notes right now. Draw it in your notes. I'm going to wait for you to draw it. Or you can pause the video at this point and draw it. So once you are done drawing it, you can now play the video to continue. All right. Now, outsourcing versus offshoring. Of course, they are not the same thing. Outsourcing means an external company performs a function. Offshoring means moving an operation to another country. outsourcing means it's not our company that does this thing for us or by ourselves. It is a different company that is doing it for us. So we outsource it to them. Offstream means, oh yes, another operation, but we want to move it from where we are right now to a different country. It is not outsourcing. We're not outsourcing into a different company in the region, or you understand? We are offshoring it out. So you can outsource without offshoring, and you can also offshore without outsourcing. And you can also offshore and also outsource at the same time. That's if the outsourcing is actually going to another country and it's going to be another company doing that particular function for you. So they are not the same thing. Now let's look at the purchasing process. Okay, it starts from purchase. Of course, that's your requisition. That's the you have the money to buy something. Okay, you are a company, you want to buy something. You've noticed whether to outsource. You've noticed whether to buy or to make it. That's the first decision you want to make in your sourcing and procurement. Whether to buy it or to make it. You've made that decision. Now, whether to outsource it or offshore it, you made that decision. Now, your purchasing requisition now say, okay, let's purchase the order. Let's buy it from the company. Okay, now let's receive what we have bought. Now let's pay for what we have received. So invoice is the payment made for the value that has been delivered to you. So you now get the invoice documents. That is the purchasing process, from your requisition to purchasing the order to receiving it and invoicing. All right. So now let's look at categorizing what you buy into 4 based on how risky it is, right, and how valuable it is. We're going to categorize what you can buy. That's what you buy. You have made the decision of whether to buy or not before. Yeah. Now you are looking at things to buy. We can categorize them into 4. We call them the matrix, the 4 matrix of purchase, of buying. Understand? Or purchase. The 4 matrix of what to buy. So we categorize this into 4. The first is the bottleneck. Then we have the strategic, we have the non-critical, and we have the leverage. So let's look at it this way. If what you are buying has low value and high risk, that's bottleneck. That's red. You probably will not even buy it at all. All right. If it has high value, high risk, you can go for it. It's strategic. If it's low value, low risk, that's non-critical. Non-critical. We can do without it. If it's high value, low risk, that's leverage. That's leverage. So you want to first of all remove all your bottlenecks. Those are distractions. Then you look at your strategic, should we or should we not? You make the decision based on your risk appetite. Then you look at your non-criticals and say, okay, this one is low value, no risk. It's non-critical. We can do it later. We can buy that later. But then, of course, your high value, low risk, these are the ones you go for. Okay, these are your high value things to buy. All right. So not every purchase deserves the same amount of attention. You use the purchase matrix. So if I ask you, or if you're asked now in your interview, what is the purchase matrix? These are the 4 elements you look into: the bottlenecks, the strategic ones, the non-critical ones, and the leverage ones. All right, let's move on. So now we have the contract types. The contract types. Once a supplier is choosing, the relationship gets formalized in a contract. And this contract has 2 common structures. We have what is called the cost reimbursable, and we have what is called the fixed price. So a fixed price contract sets one agreed price regardless of the supplier's actual cost. In contract types, I said we have how many? Write it down. 2. Number 1, fixed price. Number 2, cost reimbursable. What is now the fixed price? Fixed price contract usually set one agreed Yoruba will say one, just one. Set one agreed price regardless of the supplier's actual cost. Why a cost reimbursable contract pays the supplier's actual cost plus a fee. And of course, this is usually safer for the supplier, although it requires more trust and oversight from the buyer. So for fixed price, there's going to be one agreed price regardless of the supplier's actual cost. Both of you will have agreements. This is how much you'll be buying this thing. But for cost reimbursable, buyer will pay actual cost plus a fee. So a cost reimbursable contract pays the supplier's actual cost plus a fee. So usually safer for the supplier, but the buyer needs to trust the supplier to do this. These are the contract types. Now, when you come for the main focus, again, you are going to be learning these contract types in deep, like very, very well. These are just fundamentals to help you as a beginner to get started. Okay. Now, we have the negotiation basics. That's your partner. Good procurement negotiation is not about winning. It's not about winning. It's not about winning at the supplier's expense. All right. So a supplier squeezed too hard on price often quietly cut corners on quality or service instead. That's why, write it down. We always say this to our students. Never negotiate based on price alone. Negotiate based on what? Value. Never negotiate based on price alone. So next time now, if you have a business, somebody is pricing your business, don't say, I can't take 100K. Oh, it's 120K. The more you keep stressing the price, they will leave you. Instead of negotiating only on price, try and find a way to adjust your value such that the buyer will have no argument when they've seen the value they are getting is much higher than the value the price you are negotiating this thing for. So good procurement negotiation is not about winning at a supplier's expense. A supplier squeezed too hard on price often quietly cut corners on quality or service instead. Two ideas worth knowing. Know your partner. Now, partner is your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Your best alternative, B for best, A for alternative, right? T for to, N for negotiated, and A for agreement. Your best alternative to a negotiated agreement, that's your partner. That what you will actually do if this fee falls through. So you must always have a partner. A good supply chain manager knows their partner in and out. That's what they will be using as their weapon in negotiation. This is negotiation 101. Negotiation 101. Know your partner. Know your value. Know your competitive advantage. That will be your leverage. That's what you always go back to. Okay. Then, of course, to look at where, let me zoom this a bit so you can see. So look at where your partner sits. So we have the supplier's minimum price, right? That is the supplier is saying this is the least I can sell this thing for. All right. Then, of course, we have the zone of possible agreement between you are the buyer, all right? We are talking about procurement now. And of course, the supplier's price. Then, if nothing happens here, you must always know, as far as it passed this, I know they do again. You know your partner. You know, if nothing happens between this and this is where we say no. This is a deal breaker. So your partner set the price above which you are better off walking away than just setting down for little. So the next quick check, that's quick check number 5. A company outsources its customer support to a local firm in that same country. Is this offshoring? If yes, tell us why. If no, tell us why. Okay, note your answer. Note your answer. Quick check says, what does partner help you understand in negotiation? Okay, note your answer. Note your answer. So let's move to inventory management essentials. Okay, if you are tired, pause this video. If you are watching it on YouTube, bookmark it and come back to it. You don't have to learn this masterclass at a go. Take your time, take water, stretch, go out, take fresh air, and come back to it. And that's why we put each minute you need on each of the modules. This is 18 minutes, although it could be more than that. But don't rush. Okay, this is a full course. Actually, it's a full masterclass. It's a full masterclass. Now, inventory management essentials. So here we are going to learn to understand why companies hold inventory and how they decide how much to hold. Okay, now inventory buffers against uncertainty in demand, supply, and lead time. Now, what this is, just forget the theory. Okay, in your inventory, we have the raw materials, the work in process, and the finished goods. Now, across these three chains, we are talking about how much will be paid, what is needed. All right. So how much to be paid? Talking about the cash. All right. Warehouse to use, the storage space. All right. And other demands that's going to control the entire product. So you're talking about the raw materials management, the working on the product itself, and the storage and keeping of the finished goods. So your inventory moves across the entire production cycle, from raw materials to work in process to finished goods. Okay, now safety stock is the extra buffer held specifically to protect against unexpected spikes or delays. So the reorder points, just some of the terms you need to know in inventory management. Okay, but when you come for the paid class, like I told you, we're going to go deep into this, but we are making sure that this masterclass is enough for you to get started. So even if you don't want to go for the paid class, you can decide not to go for it. Okay, so the reorder point is a stock level that triggers a new order. Low enough to avoid excess, but high enough that the new order arrives before you run out. That is called the reorder point. This is the point that tells you, should we reorder another stock? While your safety stock is this extra buffer that help protect against unexpected spikes or delays, your reorder point is the point that shows you, that triggers, let's go and reorder. Okay, that's your reorder point. So look at it here. So while you have your stock, you have your reorder. So when the reorder spikes and say, oh, we are almost out of stock, then of course it's time for us to what? To reorder. Time for us to reorder. So of course, it's something supply chain manager have to take note of in your chart to say, oh, okay. We need to what? Reorder. Now let's move on. Inventory. This measures how many times inventory is sold and replaced over a given period. That's what is called inventory turnover. It helps supply chain managers like yourself measures how many times inventory is sold and replaced over a given period. A high turnover means stock moves fast and cash is not sitting idle on a shelf. While a low turnover means capital is tied up in goods that are not selling. That gives you a warning sign. All right, now let's quickly move to ABC classification. ABC classification. All right, now not all inventory deserves equal attention. This classification helps divide your items into 3 tiers based on the value of each tier. Tier A, that's called ABC. Tier A means items are usually a number of products that account for the bulk of total value. These are the most important ones. That's why they get tight and careful control. Then tier B, these ones need moderate attention. While tier C, these ones are numerous but low value. So they get either outsourced, or they get automated, or less focus, less attention. That's the ABC of your inventory classification. These are economics 202. They are going to teach some of this in economics. How to classify your inventory. Not all inventory deserves equal attention. It's not possible. You can't. All right. Now, How do you not know which one to focus on? That's why we have this classification. A is for the one you give more attention. B, moderate attention. C, automate. Okay. To look at it, A has chunk of your value, 80% of value. B has 15 and C 5% of your value. Okay. So answer this question. What does inventory turnover actually measure? We have said it already. What does it actually measure? Okay. What's your answer? Then under ABC classification, which items get the tightest, closest control? What's the answer? What's the answer? We've said it already. Now, I hope this is clear. This is clear. So let's go to, I think that should be the last thing, logistics. Yeah, that should be our last thing. Okay, let's go to logistics and distribution now, which is usually the last part. Now, this, we are going to understand how products move, all right, and the trade-offs behind those decisions. Now, choosing a transportation mode is always a trade-off. Trade-off means how do we decide which one should we go for? Like you have to take time and decide between your speed, the cost, the reliability, and capacity. All right, so there's really a single best option. Now look at this way. The transportation mode based on speed and cost. Okay, air is the fastest, right? And of course, it's the most expensive, followed by truck, right? Then followed by railway, right? Then of course, pipeline movement, then ocean movement, usually the one that has the least speed. Air is the fastest, followed by truck. Of course, it's not all product that can move with air. Most heavy products follow ocean, and that's why they take so much time before they arrive. And that, you have to also factor that in your supply chain. Okay, so that's your transportation mode based on speed and cost. Now let's look at inside a typical warehouse. A warehouse is not just shelves. No, anytime you hear warehouse, you're looking at a shelf. No, goods move through a reprocess. That's receiving the goods, putting them away, that's placing them in your storage, retrieving them for your order, packing them, packaging them to ship, and of course shipping to the consumer. That is how the warehouse works. That's how a warehouse works. So let's look at the 5-step flow in a warehouse. Receiving the goods, storing them, that's putting them away, picking, packaging, and shipping. That is the 5. If I ask you, what is the 5-step flow in a warehouse? That's receiving, putting away, picking, packing, and shipping. Okay, receiving, putting away, picking, packing, and shipping. Distribution networks generally choose between centralized and decentralized models. Centralized models are the cheaper, slower models, while decentralized are the pricier and faster models. So you look at it this way: this is the centralized hub, all right, and this is the decentralized means disjointed, usually faster but more expensive. Why centralized are what connected? They are usually cheaper but slower. That distribution networks. Okay. Now let's look at the final thing, the last mile problem. The last mile, which is the final leg of delivery from a distribution point to the customer's door, like your Glovo delivery, your Uber delivery, Jumia delivery. These are called last mile logistics. Okay. Of course, they are part of the logistics in your e-commerce, right? But as you have seen down, they are not the entire thing about supply chain. All right, they're not the entire thing about what the supply chain. They are usually the last mile problem. They are the ones that bring it to your door. All right. So of course, it's also the part of logistics growing fastest, driven entirely by e-commerce and same-day delivery expectations. Okay. So that's basically what this is all about. This is exactly why so many new logistics roles and startups are focused specifically on solving last mile delivery. All right. So a company wants same-day delivery in every major city. Which network model fits better? I've taught you that there are 2 network models for distribution. We have decentralized and what? Decentralized. centralized and decentralized. Which one is faster? Decentralized. Which one is more expensive? Decentralized. Which one is slower? Centralized. Which one is cheaper? Centralized. So that question is very easy. So choose your answer. What does cross-docking actually ship? I already also explained what cross-docking is. So what is cross-docking and what does it actually ship? Look at it. So of course, we're talking about inside the warehouse now. So cross-docking skips the storage step almost entirely, and it moves goods straight from receiving to shipping. It moves your goods from what? From the hand. That's good. From receiving it straight to what? To shipping. So it helps with the 5-step flow. So let's look at the question again. So you can see now, you can see the answer. What does it actually skip? What does it skip? Very easy. So now, to look for jobs, this is one of the things we help our students with when you want to learn supply chain with us at VAA Global. All right. There are different roles we are going to tell you about. You can work as a supply chain analyst, procurement officer, operation manager, demand planner, supply chain associate, logistics coordinator, and so on. All right. So you have to decide which one exactly you want to go for. All right. And then the skills you have to learn. So you have to learn Excel. That's why in our supply chain class, you are going to learn Excel, how to use Excel for analysis. How to use Excel for analysis. All right. You're going to learn your SAP. All right. Of course, these are some of the important ERP you see in job descriptions. You must have this, have that. Then planning, analysis, and forecasting. These are some of the remote friendly skills you have to also learn in the program. Okay. So, and experience is always better. Of course, you can have a recognized certificate like the one we are going to give you. It's recognized. All right. And it's accredited by Skill Development Council Canada. So you're going to get the certificate from us. But beyond the certificates, we're going to give you internship to practice what you have learned, build your portfolio around what you've learned, and prepare for jobs. Of course, we won't tell you immediately you finish training, you will get a job. That will be dishonesty. But we can assure you that whatever you are learning will be quality, standard, and you can build portfolio that will give you confidence to get jobs. And of course, we also have our talent management system where sometimes when we have the demand from employers, we can directly match you with jobs. Of course, that's on the plus side. We don't promise that job will come from that angle. It's just a plus. It's mine. Okay. To answer all the quick checks questions, why are supply chain planning and analysis roles wasted to remote work? So these are some of the questions you have to answer. Now, this lesson notes will be available. It's going to be available on the on the same page that you are seeing this webinar. On the same page you are seeing, whether you are seeing this on YouTube, you will see it in the description. Whether you are seeing this on our website, you will see this lesson notes on the page as well. So that you will be able to answer all the quick questions and also use the lesson notes to write in your notes gently and very well. Okay. Now, after you've answered all the 12 questions, drop your answers on Twitter. If you do have a Twitter account, do this. There's a reward for you. Use the hashtag learning supply chain with VA Global. Learning supply chain with VA Global. Then tag us at VAA Global. Tag us. Use the correct tag, okay, at VAA_Global. We'll select the first 20 answers. Of course, those that got all the 12 correctly. The first 20 people that got all the 12 correctly. And we are going to reward you with 50% scholarship into the paid course. So let's look at the paid course itself. Let's look at the paid course itself. Now, the paid course has 6 weeks of training. 6 weeks of training that covers supply chain foundations, sourcing and procurement in detail, inventory and demand in detail. You can see in detail, inventory and demand and planning in detail, logistics and warehousing in detail, supply chain tech and data analytics in detail. Then of course, your strategy and risk and final projects in detail. Okay, and these are the things you are going to be getting in the paid course. Certification, which is of course the main thing I'm sure why some of you are learning here. Then accredited certificates, capstone project for your portfolio, access to our remote. So we have access to Remotive, a paid account that gives you remote jobs, job assistance and interview coaching to help you. Then the student employer matching that I already explained before via our VA Global Talent Management System, lifetime access to all the course materials and recordings, and of course the growing alumni community of over 1,400 graduates. Okay, so now let's look at the course. So the course is 150,000. Now for the first people who we do the 12 quizzes and follow the instruction, they'll be given a code on Twitter. We're going to reach out to you on Twitter. But if you don't do that, if you want to go straight without doing that, just click on continue to payment. So if you continue to payment, you have options to pay in 3 different installments. You can either pay once, which is full, or pay twice. All right, pay twice or pay 3 times. So either way, you can click on any of these and it's going to take you to our pay stack, which is very well secured. You can see secured by pay stack. We never see your card. We won't see your card details. It's secured with pay stack. So whichever option you want to go for, that's exactly what you will see. So if you are going for 3 parts, you'll be seeing 75. You can see instead of the 150,000. That means you are paying in 3 installments. And if you are paying once, that is exactly what you will see on the payment as well. All right. So get started with us. Accelerate your career with VAA Global. There are lots of things to learn in supply chain, and that is why we are here for you. All right, get started, pay for the paid class, and these are some of the things you are going to be getting. Once again, you are going to be getting access to. So let's see what is included again. Let's see again. Aside the curriculum, right? Let's see what you are getting again. The life certification course itself, which is well detailed. Then the global recognized certificates, then risk supply chain improvement capstone project for your portfolio, access to created remote job listings, job assistance for you, job student employer job matching. All right, then lifetime access to all course materials and recordings and alumni access as well. These are all the things you are getting today. If you have any questions, you can either send us a WhatsApp message with this button, messages on WhatsApp, or reach out to us on Twitter at VA Global at VA Global. All right, thank you so much for watching the recording, the masterclass, and we'll see you in the paid class.